Hello, I am a 31-year-old person from South Korea with bipolar disorder.
Can you describe the mental health culture in your country? How does it work for people like us who have mental health conditions? And are people supportive? Is there a lot of stigma?
In South Korea, there was like a rapid kind of modernization. So, like my grandmother's generation is totally different. And that was when South Korea at least like was very, very poor, and there was the Korean War that split South and North. And then my mom's generation was like the kind of economic boom era. And then my generation is like, oh, we want to change the old ways kind of generation. So mental health wise, like my grandma's generation, they didn't even know that existed. And my mom's generation, like no, you don't do that. People are going to talk about you because people really care about what others think about you. So you are not seen well if you do that. My generation also, people like if you're really conservative, because it's a quite conservative society, then people will kind of not want to associate with you. But lately it's been like on the news, and they even made a TV show out of it so that people can be more open to it. And people in their 20s and 30s are increasingly visiting psychiatrists that are coming up on the news. I think it is opening up a little bit, but it's still a taboo.
You mentioned there's a TV show. Could you tell us a bit more? Like the TV show, does it approach these questions? What kind of conditions are discussed? And was it like really popular in South Korea?
Actually, there was one K-drama called like Attorney Wu that was on Netflix, and she was autistic and she became a lawyer. So it dealt with a lot of like taboos in Korea, including like feminism and autistic person and like LGBTQ, all these kind of things that Korean people don't talk about. But they did it in a really like heartwarming way. And then the new one that came out a couple of weeks ago is like called like Welcome to the Mental Health Hospital, and it's like psychiatric hospital, and like the doctor's life going through each patient, and they like kind of entertain, inform you on different diagnosis and stuff.
That's really recent. You said it's just a few weeks ago, and it's the first time that a K drama approaches mental health in like an empathetic way. Is that it?
Yes.
I mean, obviously, Korea these days is a powerhouse in films and media. So, is there a case that you've seen, maybe portrayals of people with bipolarity who were, it's like whatever bad thing has happened, it was the bipolarity. The person with the mental health condition is the bad guy. Is that something that you've seen, or is that not happening too much in Korea?
Um, well, there are a lot of like gory scenes and violent films, but they don't really talk about the condition of the person. Sometimes it's drug induced, sometimes it's like definitely like psychotic, but it doesn't really have like a diagnosis on it. And like kind of like going off the track here, but a lot of throughout the history, because there's been like Japanese occupation, like before that there was like Chinese like kind of ruling and Korean War, and then like all these kind of hardships, which like I think made people like really mentally ill, on top of like the whole like fast economic boom and modernization. So like I think a lot of people were ill, but like they didn't talk about it. But there are a lot of cases that show that people are in general quite ill.
It's like a lot of PTSD from the war and the occupation and stuff like that.
Yes, I'm not a doctor, so I can't say which it may be, but I think because like for example, like I've had several different diagnoses from psychiatrists. So like I think mental illness in a way is like a whole big pond if I were not a doctor for me personally. So I noticed that.
So could you tell us a little bit about how did you become aware you had bipolarity and what other diagnoses like showed up and why? Like, did you have an episode that made you manic, or how did you find out that you had it?
When I was in grade school, I did some strange activities like that were stress induced and stuff, but I didn't really think I was abnormal. But like some other people have pointed out that I was like abnormal. And then in college I was like very depressed, so I ended up going to a psychiatrist and then he said I was clinically depressed. And then I studied abroad in Germany, and then there I was in a emergency room because I had an episode, and then there like the doctor didn't even see me, and then just like diagnosed me as like what was it? Borderline personality disorder. And then my therapist said like, no, you're not, because my therapist was there with me because it was an emergent situation, and she just like diagnosed me like wrongly. So that was like pretty disheartening, but it was wrong. And then I came back and then I saw a very renowned doctor here and he said like you're mostly clinically depressed, but you have a tendency to be bipolar. So he was the first one who diagnosed it, and I've been seeing him for 10 years, and he finalized it to be bipolar, and then yeah, that's kind of how it went.
Okay, so you had issues in college. Was it were you taking medication? Were you stable or?
Oh yeah, I was taking medication. The recurring diagnosis was depression. And I've been told that like more females than males when it's bipolar feel less manic, like statistically. That's what I've heard, that how it kind of appears is a little bit more depressive induced rather than manic induced. This is like a huge generalization, but anyways, I felt more depressed than manic. My manic episodes were not as grand as my other bipolar friends.
And you start going to doctors, they give you borderline, and clearly your other doctor's like, no, that's completely wrong. And then eventually they go like, no, no, it's bipolarity. And what made them sure? Did you have any hypomania episodes that they were like, oh yeah, this is absolutely bipolarity?
Apparently, the doctor that diagnosed me as such has told me that he has noticed some manic behaviors from me, like for example, talking really fast or like being fidgety or like stuff like that. Like honestly, like I don't think so, but he thought so, and he gave me these as some examples. And then yeah, I even asked him like how would you amongst like two different bipolar disorders, which one would you classify me as? And then he said like it's it's like really hard to classify. Like I don't like to classify as one or two, like what is bipolar. And one interesting thing that he has told me is like he on the document, on the medical document, he put me as just depression because it looks bad if it's like bipolar disorder, like in the future. So he put it as just depression to assuage like any kind of future troubles. And I thought that was interesting.
So the very doctor was like, I don't want to put this on because the medical file, someone might pick it up at some point and it might create issues for you, basically.
He did it for me. He obviously doesn't care, but he did it for me in case like something happens.
Wow, okay. Yeah, that's intense.
Yeah, and I didn't even know that bipolar disorder had like really bad reputation. And like I was told by my friends like, yeah, like a lot of criminals are bipolar and like there are a lot of bad like people who have that who have done violent things, and I'm like, oh, like I'm so not violent. One thing that I feel is that I have a lot of, I think it's caused by depression, but a lot of I have a tendency to self-harm, like with maybe alcohol or like overworking or like drinking a lot of coffee or something like that.
Drinking a lot of coffee, you consider self harm? I don't know. How much coffee?
Honestly, like it upsets my stomach. My body doesn't like coffee, so it's harming for me.
But did you ever have like serious episodes of self harm? Or is it in your mind mostly?
No, no, not really.
But alcohol, is that an issue for you?
It is, and I've talked to my doctor about it. Because it relaxes me because oftentimes I feel like kind of anxious and I self-medicate with alcohol and like it's not good, obviously.
What medication are you on these days? Are you on anything?
Yes, I am on Abilify and Zoloft.
It's funny, a lot of people, again, so different. A lot of people, Abilify doesn't work, and some people it works beautifully. And I have no idea why. I don't know if anybody knows why.
Honestly, Abilify doesn't work for me, but they made it work. Because like they said this is the perfect medicine for you. It didn't work, and then I took a long break and then got back to it because your body chemistry changes, and for some reason it started working again. So yeah,
Wow, okay. So, like, a few years down the line, it suddenly started working?
yeah, and I've actually like there were some medicines that worked really great for me, and then later on it stopped working, and I had to change.
Yeah. Do you have like an example of something that.
I think Wellbutrin. I think that one gave me really bad side effects. But a lot of bipolar medicine, like similar one to Abilify, I felt really bad with.
So, how did it feel for you to get the diagnosis? Like, were you concerned? Were you actually relieved that you had the diagnosis? Or.
I was pretty concerned in the beginning because he said it would be harder to kind of treat than depression itself. He said like it's a balancing work and it's way trickier. So that made me concerned.
And did that go away with time? Did you realize, like, oh, yeah, this is something I can live with?
Talking to my friend, who had first refused to go to psychiatrist and then started going to psychiatrist and therapist, who has bipolar disorder, talking to him made me feel much more kind of like I don't know, like at ease because like we would have similar symptoms and then hearing his experience was like, oh, like I noticed what you're doing. Like I felt that. And that was really nice.
I can imagine. For me, I think it was the same. I had to go to a support group because I think when they gave me the diagnosis, I thought, oh, my life is over. And then I went to a support group and met these people who were in their 50s and they had it. And I was like, oh, you can like live with this somehow, you know? Your first episodes were mostly depression, right? Uh, did you have to be medicated out of those episodes, basically?
I've been medicated the whole time, basically, except for a short amount of time that I was not medicated. Basically my doctor told me like my brain lacks the average dopamine and serotonin levels, so I have to bump them up.
Or did you have any moment? So basically, you started to feel comfortable with it because you saw your friend and he was also stable, and you were beginning to stabilize, and you were like, okay, I can live with this. Basically, is that right?
No, he was not really stable. It was just like it was nice to have someone to talk about it. Like because honestly, like trial and error of trying different medicines was a full-time job. Like when I was change medicine, like I couldn't work. Or like I just sleep all day or stuff like that. So just kind of like talking to them about it really made me feel better.
Because of the issues with the stigma, are there support groups? Did you ever visit any of those, or.
I haven't been to one. I'm a little bit scared. Also because like I'm more comfortable in English than Korean. So if it's a Korean support group, I might like kind of, not be able to express fully what I want. So I've been kind of hesitant to it. And like, it's a little scary
Is it scary because you think you might get recognized later, or?
because like maybe they will reveal some kind of episodes or symptoms that I don't want to know about that I might have later.
So you don't want any spoilers, basically. You go like, no, 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 I'll deal with this like one day at a time. And
I'll deal with it when it comes up.
well, when you listen to the episodes, you'll find out. I mean, most people are like, it seems like after the condition shows up, it doesn't change too much. If that brings you any peace of mind, maybe.
I think the most disheartening thing, the one that I felt like really heartbroken, was when the doctor said like, "Oh, you're experiencing psychotic episode." Like he said, the term that he gave it was, I don't remember clearly the term, but it made when I read about it, it made total sense. It was like over relevance or something. I don't remember, sorry, but he called it psychotic episode, and then like I was like, does that mean like I am a psycho then? Like, and then I was really like upset about it, but he said no, like even depression can have it. Like I'm kind of surprised for over 10 years you didn't know about this.
Recently, you got diagnosed with a potential psychotic episode?
I mean, apparently, like it has been occurring. It comes with like bipolar disorder or depression, like in some cases. So I've had it. I just didn't know how to name it.
What were some of the symptoms? What happened?
So this was the one that I told him was like, okay, so I thought it was super normal, but he thought it was like a psychosis. So like I told him like how like people are obsessed with like numbers on time, like for example, give meaning to numbers in time. So like if it's like 19 it means something, or if it's 56 it means something, and then people put a lot of significance and change their behavior when a minute changes and the number changes. And then he said like no. And like I was very sure people did that.
What people? Like everybody?
Like almost everybody, like especially at work.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if this is Korean culture, but that's
No,
not my
apparently it's not.
experience.
Oh, apparently it's not. Oh, apparently not. So I was like, I was so sure this was true. And then he was like, no, and after that I kind of relaxed and I was like, okay, maybe that was me being a little.
Wait, was that it though? Like a psychotic episode? I don't know. You didn't. I have audio hallucinations, like voices. Did you ever
Oh
had?
yeah, I've had that. I've had that.
Oh, okay.
Definitely. Where like very critical negative voices of other people, like yeah, from the wall or ceiling, and like it's so bad. Um, but that happens when my symptoms are really bad, like when I'm not feeling good.
Ah, okay. So yeah, that does sound like psychosis. To be
Mhm.
fair.
Yeah. Yeah. But they didn't name it like that, so I didn't know.
Okay. Did anything visual as well, or?
No visual.
Yeah. So how do you deal with the your own audio hallucinations, the voices? Do they tell you to do things? Do they give you commands, orders, or just criticism?
Mostly like severe criticism or like scolding, and it was just like so bad, and like I would get angry later, even though I don't get angry because it continued. Like I thought it was coming from my neighbors, but it wasn't.
So you heard it as like, because for me the voices were relatively near. Amy, she described it as two people behind her on the movie line, so two people behind her speaking. You're saying you actually heard it as like they're in a different apartment.
Yeah.
Wow. Like upstairs or downstairs?
Sometimes upstairs, sometimes downstairs, sometimes next door.
Did you ever figure out? I don't know if this is your usage, but for me, I eventually thought this just sounds like my inner voice has come out of me and it's telling me things. Did you ever figure out something like that, or did it always feel like they were outside of you?
I was pretty sure they were outside of me, and then I had other people be present with me when I heard it. And I was like, "Did you hear that?" And then they're like, "No." And I've tried recording when it happens, but I heard nothing. So I'm like, okay, maybe I'm hearing things. But I was very sure that I heard it from next door, for example.
Wow. Did the medication make them go away?
It helped for sure. I didn't hear it as much before, or if it happens, I didn't care that much. It didn't affect me.
Uh, did it ever happen that you thought it was a hallucination, but actually was actually someone talking to you?
Yeah, so like that's the thing. I told my doctor, like it's really hard for me to distinguish if it's reality or not. And then he said, like, well, like it's not important if it's reality or not. The fact is you're hearing things, and that's what we're going to focus on, rather than distinguishing if it actually happened or not. So I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And I went like diligently took my medicine, and it kind of went away.
Interesting.
But even till now, I hear some things like, and then some negative things, and I'm not sure if I'm hearing it correct or not.
Hmm. But you find it much easier to ignore.
Exactly.
That's good. Yeah. So outside of the medication, I feel like there's also a lot of lifestyle stuff. Like, do you do any other key things that help make you stable? Like, do you exercise? Do you have a specific diet? Do you maintain a very strict routine? Like, what are some of the key things that help make you stable, if anything, outside of medication?
I think definitely, but I don't like exercising at all. But I've recently found an exercise that I enjoy, which is badminton. It's like fun. It's not like just just doing exercising for the sake of it. And I finally found it, and I think I and after it, I feel like really fun and I feel much delightful and I don't feel the need to drink. So I think it's really good for me. So that really helps. And honestly, like the meditation has been a lifesaver for me. It really like makes my life more smooth and it's like very critical for me. So other than that, I just try to, take a shower every day, like go for a walk so that I see some people around because I work remotely. So if I want, I don't have to leave the house. But yeah, I try to do these little things. Nothing very routine based. It's really hard for me to keep a routine.
Yeah, yeah. I think we all a lot like, or at least a lot of people struggle with that. Even though I find it really helpful when I am in a routine. I find that I sense myself becoming more stable in many ways. But then you also go like, oh, but I want to have fun and I want to do this and I want to do that, and then you sleep 4 hours instead of 8. Yeah. Uh, but you mentioned, so the badminton helps you eh, just not focus on alcohol. You said so. Alcohol is really something you use for your anxiety, like stuff like that, or it has been used in that way.
It has been used a lot for relaxation and or feeling better, um, or boredom. Um, but apparently for someone who has bipolar disorder, it's like really bad.
So you already kind of approached this, so let's talk about this. So you've shared with people your diagnosis. in your society, I assume. What are some of the strongest reactions you have, like negative or positive or surprising?
Uh, so I think I haven't opened up to that many people. It was a friend who has a bipolar disorder, and another friend who also has mental illness, and then um and then at my previous work, I was working remotely, but I told my team like, "Oh, hey, like I have been diagnosed all of these different things, um, and like there's if I I'm just telling you this because in case something bad happens, I wanted you to know like I have this." And then they were super like welcoming about it, like it's nothing to like like the ish like, I don't know, nothing to worry about, or they were super being like, I know people like that and being super welcoming and accommodating. So all my experiences were positive.
Oh, really? So of the times you have shared, all of your experiences have been positive. Wow, that's great. Well, how is dating culture in Korea? Do you have you ever told, or do you have a stable partner, or did you ever tell somebody out that you were dating about bipolarity? And
I think that is super dependent on the culture. So I've told someone from and I told them about it, and he did not take it well at all. Like, for him, it was totally stigmatized. Like he thinks like I don't have to see a psychiatrist. He thinks like I'm normal. Like there's like no need for it. Like he thinks like everyone is like that. He doesn't believe in psychiatrists, and then he thought he really didn't take it well. Whereas like before that, my partner who was like totally fine with it. So it like totally depends on the culture. And for I had a Korean boyfriend who I opened up to about actually he opened it up to me before I did. So he understood it. So I think culturally it's like quite drastic, and depending if you have it, it's quite drastic.
guess you got some bad reactions, mostly positive, which is good. But mostly you keep it to yourself, right?
Yes. Because so I've talked to my friend about this, and sometimes like this is I'm talking about like because I lived in New York before, and in New York like sometimes like when you have a disability, sometimes people kind of wear it like a like a medal, like kind of like it becomes their whole, like it becomes their identity, and they kind of are proud to say it, which I think pride is not bad, but like I don't want like that to be my situation, because like in Europe, for example, there are a lot of jobs and like work benefits for people with disability, for example, um in big enterprises maybe.
But you're saying in Korea there are these jobs in the big companies for people with disabilities.
Yes. Mostly it wouldn't be like bipolar disorder. It would be like physical disability or Down syndrome, or um something very like open to the naked eye, like that people know your disability.
So yeah, I mean, how did you mentioned in the form you've struggled a little bit with staying in one job for a long time. How does your bipolarity affect, you think, your professional journey?
It's kind of hard to say like draw a line um where the work me is being interfered by bipolarity. It's really hard for me to distinguish that. But just like me as a whole, it's really hard for me to stay in one job for a long time. and build a career. It's always been a struggle for me. Um, yeah. I don't know how to draw that line though, or pick it out.
Hmm. Well, what is it that does happen? Do you get bored? Do you enter into conflict somehow because you're having some issue, or
Sometimes, but more likely, like I think, um, out of curiosity, like I want to do something else. Or like I want to try something else.
huh? So you just feel like you need change, and if you stay at one job, it's not enough. It's like it just feels like you're stuck somehow.
Yeah,
Do you feel like that's changing over time at all? You think that's gonna be forever part of your journey?
I am hoping it gets better. I'm pretty happy with my current job. I have a lot of free time and my responsibility is much less and I have a lot of flexibility, which I'm really happy about. So hopefully I can stay in this job longer than I want. But I always thrive on change. I want to like just change the environment. I also move a lot, like my house, like I change jobs a lot, but I don't know if that's bipolarity. Like I just like yeah, that's always how I've been.
Did you ever feel like any episode, like a bit of mania or hypomania, did it help you out in any way? Like, did you feel like, oh yeah, I couldn't have got that done without this incredible burst of energy?
That's a really good question, actually. And that makes me think about a time that I was starting a new field of work, and I was a newbie, and I just like had to know. And I think when I'm sometimes for some reason, this condition makes me want to just like kind of research and work until I die, kind of thing. So I would work for I would work for like 12 hours a day. Just like trying to figure this out. And it helped me like to advance my career really quickly. But I'm not happy about it because I crash after.
But does this happen several times?
It's happened several times.
But just walk me through this. You just get into like this complete workaholic mode. You get into the office. You go like, I'm not leaving until X is finished, and because I'm saying this because that's the same as me. uh, so how does it express itself? Is it like, do you let it happen because you go like, I actually could benefit from this right now?
Half of it, but half of it, like obviously think about the economy of this time. Like I usually wouldn't be this focused, and now that I'm this focused, I might as well just like spend it as milk it as much as possible because like I'm sure like tomorrow I wouldn't have this attention span. So like I just go through with it. And then like I end up staying like a night or something at the office. And yeah, so that's how it goes.
Hmm. But then when you say you crash, you go into a depressive episode afterwards.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of sleep, like no energy, like upset, for obvious reasons.
Yeah, but does the medication, does this happen under your current medication or used to happen?
Honestly, like I don't know if it's my age, but like after I turned like 29, I say, I turned way more like my up and down is way more in extreme than how it was in the early 20s. But I think it's because like there's like a physical bar to it. Like my body can't physically like stay up that long, or like my body can't consume that much alcohol or food, or maybe like coffee or something like that. So there's already like a limit, and that is quite a bliss in some ways.
But you say your up and downs are becoming worse. or more intense?
Oh no. I'm saying it's getting uh more relaxed. Like the up and down, like the curve is way more shallow than how it was.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So you feel the up and downs of the medication, but just it's very, very mild.
I would say just mild, not very, very mild. It is I notice it and I think that's like that's really good when I notice it.
Did you ever have anything like rapid cycling or mixed states or any uncommon things in bipolar that you were like surprised about?
I guess like the hearing things was like or the number things like something that feels so normal is actually not or is a psychosis. Like whatever felt so normal to me was not. Like I was very sure the neighbors were talking shit about me, but it was not.
Okay. Well, if you could, would you change anything about the way, or would you give people, if you could give people like an image of what bipolarity actually is? Let's say you could do like a, everyone would hear you speak for like a minute. Would you do something to change their perception? Like, what would you tell them about it? What would you say, like, hey, this is what this is, and this is how you could think about it?
I think like something that I would like to share is that like people who have it, it's really hard for them to first know, put a name on it. And without putting a name on it, it feels very normal, what they're feeling. And that's what I want to say. And I know it's like very banal, but like for me, it's it it it's very like something that was significant. Like what I was feeling was very normal.